we have like 2.5 week breaks.
But you guys don't get a break.
We don't really get a break. So my thought is, Shirley, is just to honestly just not teach this summer. I think we all get Zoom fatigue. I don't know about you.
No. I was on a Zoom meeting with my one student. I left for 4 hours today working on our magazine. So yes.
You do. You just kind of get like, oh man. And you guys don't know this part of it, but when you're on RN grading, it's hard to grade online. It's not.
Guys, listen to her. She's telling the truth.
It's true.
Yes, it is.
Just sharing from the professor's standpoint. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I guess I'll just delve in a little bit, starting with how I got into my business, and then I'll also, and I'm hoping it works on my end. It's so temperamental with screen sharing. I never know if it's going to work or not. But anyway, I wanted to give you a little bit of my background so you understand, where I started. There was in the 80s, we're talking a long time ago, guys. In the 80s, I worked for a department store. It was called the Broadway. Broadway had 50 stores in the West Coast. And I was going through college, and I actually was a music major. And I started working to get a little bit more confidence. So I also was going through a modeling school thing because I was 5'8", and I thought, oh, I'm tall enough. I could probably do that. Okay, I'm talking early 20s, okay? So I finally decided that my talent was not going to be in music as a career. But when I started working for the department store, I started taking fashion classes. So with that, I went into what they called a management training program. The management training program for the department store trained people in certain areas. Now, at that time, they had a position out in Orange County, because I live in Long Beach. So they had a position out in Orange County for a fashion coordinator. And the fashion coordinator would do in-store events. Plus, they offered, believe it or not, do you know Nordstrom has their teen board? Do you know about their teen board at Nordstrom's? They have this where the girls are in the brass plum department, and they are from local high schools. They represent their high schools. We had a similar thing at my store. And my store was Fashion Island, Broadway Fashion Islands, which now the building is Bloomingdale's. They took it over. So I started working and was trained by the management team at the Broadway in the fashion office. So I was trained through special events to go out to that store and reach out. And with my particular job, it was very important to reach out to the community, to bring in new customers, new sales, offer events that they would find productive for the store, and so on and so forth. So I created an events situation at the store. I mean, they said, okay, we have these little, these high school teens that need to be trained, because I had a modeling background. I could teach them that. I taught them etiquette. They have those like at John Robert Parr's and Barbizon. Just think of that. Okay, that was at the department store. So that is kind of where I got started with doing that job. But it really blossomed because at that time we didn't have social media. So social media was not a way of finding people and finding resources. The internet was just in its infancy in the early 90s. So part of my job was to seek out new clients. So the way I had to go about that is reaching out through newspapers. I went to the city hall. I was part of some of the local charitable groups. I went out to the meetings for the retailers that were in the mall, any way to build business. So networking was really part of my job too. And that's how I started building a clientele. So what I'm saying about the clientele is we started inviting these groups into the store and also customers so they could participate in fashion events within the store. We also would tie in with outside groups like National Charity League and the Cancer Society and the Seroptimus clubs. I mean, there's all kinds of charitable groups in the area. We would do shows for them. So we would go out, you know, I was in charge of that. So I would pull the clothes, I would fit the models, I would haul the clothes to the show, I would set it up. I mean, it's just a lot of legwork. So as Kimberly has now discovered, because she helped out a show, she now kind of is being introduced to this section. So that's how she got me to come and talk to you guys. So part of that responsibility of being in the community was that the store wanted to see a return on my events in sales. So that was really important to them, because when you think of events for a store, you can't just go and, oh, we'll just throw a show together. And what's the bottom line, guys? You're merchandisers, you're designers, whatever it is for your club. What's the bottom line? The store and the designer, they want to make money. They want to sell what they have, because that's bottom line. So every time I would do an event, there was always that question, well, what did you sell? Or what's the feedback? You know, they wanted instant gratification to get people into the store. So my job also turned into being a personal stylist within the store. So I would have clients that would come in and I would wardrobe them for different things. And that was part of my job as being a fashion coordinator too. So that is just a whole different kind of thing. But if you know that Neiman Marcus, Saks, Nordstrom's, Macy's all have personal shoppers. These are people that work with corporations, but they also style clients or customers that come into the store. So that was also part of my job. So I had kind of exposure with the store in both areas. Okay, so that kind of led me to really growing in the community. I started building a clientele and reputation within the community because of my involvement. Okay, so I think one of the biggest things in this kind of job is being really good at PR and pushing yourself out there and getting the word out there and doing a lot of self-promotion. I hate to say it, but I was having to self-promote for the store. People were not coming out to me. I did get calls from outside saying, oh, you know, we want to do a fashion show. And that was a cool thing. But a lot of it is because I sought out the clients for the store. I did a lot of legwork to go into and develop this area for that store. And fortunately, I was in an area that's very socially busy, because Newport, Laguna, South Coast Plaza, if you know that area, they have a lot of fundraising events. It's very, because of the wealth of the community, they're very socially driven. So that also helped my job to get more exposure. Well, come about 1990, my store closed. All of the stores, same thing like was happening with COVID. All of a sudden, these stores started closing their doors, and we were going through late in Shirley, you might remember late 80s, we had a recession. It was pretty bad. So that's where I had a fashion show in the store. And that day they announced gas shortages. And that's where people literally were running to the gas station to get gas because they were afraid they wouldn't be able to get gas. And there were gas lines, people to get gas. If you go to Costco to get gas, well, that was that long line, that was at every gas station. So it was really, so that night, I had like 5 people in the audience because everybody didn't want to use their gas. So that was, I'm just letting you know the good and the bad. So things happen and you have no control over it like that in my store. But that was probably the worst case scenario. But the best case scenario, I've done some really cool things with great designers. We did a lot of in-store events like children's fashion shows. We did at that time a men's champagne night, so guys could come in before Christmas and shop for their wives. We had a team of people in the store, sales associates, to help these guys find things for their wives for Christmas. And we, it's just all kinds of beauty makeover days. We did what was called Lunchtime Seminars. So we had a lot of corporate buildings around Fashion Island. If you've ever seen it, there's a lot of corporates. So when we would have a lunchtime seminar, so they would come for like a half hour, and we'd either do a beauty makeover, we talk about basic wardrobing, we do all kinds of things to bring people in. So that was kind of one of the high times in Fashion Island, was because of all the businesses, lunch was busy. So we always try to do something at lunchtime so people could come in and participate in our events. So as I was saying, with the closure of the store, I decided, what am I going to do? So I took the clients that I had and I approached them on my own. So I established my own production company. By then I had met really awesome models, really good tech team. I knew a lot of clients that still wanted to do shows, and I just took it upon myself to say, hey, I can't do it with Broadway anymore, so I'm offering my services to you on an independent contract basis. So that kind of started my whole thing. Now, at the same time, I started teaching college and high school. So I was teaching the ROP program. If you guys ever took ROP at your local high school, that, fashion merchandising, I was there for probably,
Yeah, I did.
Yay, Diana, result of fashion merchandising class. Yeah, so I taught at Warren High School in Downey, and I also taught it in Garden Grove. I taught up in Rosemead. I taught fashion merchandising after school program, which was the ROP, after school fashion merchandising class. So I did that for like 15 years. I also started teaching college. There was a college in Long Beach at the time. They're not there anymore, called Brooks College. Shirley, do you remember Brooks College?
Yes, I remember Brooks College.
Yeah, I started teaching there.
Wow.
So yeah, and I taught what I knew. I taught fashion coordination class, which is like how to produce a fashion show. I taught the trend class. I taught apparel evaluation class. I mean, I really have taught a lot of courses. Probably, I counted one time, 10 different college courses. I've taught at 5 different colleges in my career. So that's how I started in the early 90s. That's when I really got going with my own business. Again, once I established that, I started making a lot of cold calls. And cold calling is not an easy thing to do. And I don't know if you guys have had any speaker talk to you about like how to get started. You probably have, but one of the hardest things to do is to get phone numbers. And at that time, again, internet and emailing was a little bit in infancy. So I had to literally call people on landlines to get them to say, hey, I'm representing, fashion coordination. My business is called Couture Productions. I'm an independent fashion show producer. I know that you guys do a fashion show. I'd love to meet with you and share with you what I have to offer. So that's kind of how I just started. And people, because of that and the reputation that I started building with other clients, I would randomly get these calls from people say, hey, we heard that you do fashion shows. We'd like to talk to you about doing our event. Now, most of the shows that I have been involved in majority have been charitable fundraising organizations that use fashion as a fundraiser. But the other part of it is I have also been involved in doing mall fashion shows. So that's a whole different animal. And I've also been involved with some designers that do designer fashions, but I have had only very little experience, to be honest with you, because I haven't concentrated on building this in fashion weeks. That's not really my forte. But I can tell you all about fashion weeks if you want to know, because it's a whole different kind of category of fashion show production than what I do with my kind of clientele. So, it's kind of what you want to pursue. I think that if you're a designer, you're a merchandiser, I think the background that I had in modeling actually helped, because it kind of trained me to know what to look for in a model. I know, as silly as that sounds, but it does help. I also worked with clothes when I started working in a retail store for the Broadway. I worked a lot with that. I took wardrobing classes. I took styling classes. Hands-on is probably one of the best things that you can do to gain experience. So I always encourage even my students to say, work retail for a little while. You may not want to do it for a lifetime, but just work retail, even if it's a 6-month gig. Just go in, because you learn about clothes, how they fit, how sizing varies, how the styles change on a body, as you know, and the branding, how brands promote themselves and how they put fabrics and colors and groupings together. I think the way that a store is merchandised is a good lesson, even by walking through a store and saying, oh, look what's on the mannequin. Oh, look what's next to the mannequin. Oh, they put this an outfit together. I never would have thought of that, but look how cool that is, and see how it looks. So a lot of it is, I think, really having a sense and training your eye to know what works, and really how clothes fit bodies. And I think that's the benefits of working with non-professional models, because of the fact they're not perfect. And when you work with a customer and non-professional models, they have all kinds of figure situations, and you have to know how to balance that. How to balance somebody who's got a long waist or a short waist, or who's really busty or hippie, or that kind of thing. So that all is really important to know, and that's what your training helps you do. And I think that's why working retail is not a bad idea. So that's kind of my encouragement there. So once I started doing my own company, I've done a lot of events all over Southern California. I've gone up to San Francisco. I go down to San Diego. I haven't really gone out of state per se, because California is there's so much here that I haven't had a need to go other places to seek clientele and to build that. But I will say, I still am cold calling. I still reach out and I research, guys. I think this is super important. If you want to do styling, merchandising, if you want to be a trend forecaster, you got to research, and you find out what those companies that you want to work for, what are they doing? Who's the person to call? And send them an introduction email, or call them and say, this is what I do. This whole time, this woman who has been really one of my competitors has now retired. So she had a ton of clients that are swimming upstream going, we want to do a fashion show, but we don't know who to call. So I ended up going on the internet, writing down the groups, who their contact is, and I've sent out probably 20 or 30 emails reaching out to her clients. And I have had some feedback because I've done that. So as a result of me going and putting myself out there, I can build my clientele. Now with COVID, it's been really hard. There's been no shows. And I really did promote virtual fashion shows. And finally, Kimberly helped at my first fashion show virtually last Sunday. And we did it was really well received. They really, really like it. So that's really cool. But that's like another kind of part of the production aspect. So what I think I want to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you my website and just talk you through my website, because there's kind of information on there that I can highlight, excuse me, as well. Okay. Okay. So tell me if you cannot see this. Can you see that?
We can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
You know, it's just, you never know. You just don't know. Anyway, my company decided to call it Couture Productions because of the fact it just sounded fancy. That's really the only reason. I just thought, hey, I need a fancy name. I don't want to be I didn't want to use my name because my name is really complicated. My last name is not easy. So, and I thought it was kind of weird to say Lucinda Productions. I thought that would sound sort of egotistical. So I decided to just call something that everybody related with fashion, and that was the word couture. And that's why I came up with that. So if you're branding yourself, think about working through possible names for yourself. If you're trying to think of, being a stylist, being your own brand, working, and think of titles and names, because you want something that people will remember, and something that's really workable for you. And sometimes first names and last names, like look at mine on the screen. Come on. How do you say my last name? It's Miedema. I know you'd never get that. So that's why I decided never to use that. For that reason, exactly for that reason. And it was always, everybody has like 5 different pronunciations for it. So Couture Productions is a full service production company that specializes in exciting upscale events for designers, retailers, and charitable organizations. Whether it's a full-scale fashion production or simple informal, we have every aspect of the event with professionalism. So basically it's this. What is an informal? There's different kinds of fashion shows, okay? An informal is when a store like Macy's, Nordstrom's has a designer come into the store, and they have a couple of models that will, try the clothes on and be the model of the day for the designer. So clients can come and see how it looks on a body. So informal in a department store is that. There's another aspect of the informals that is real old school, but I've always loved it. And I know some stores have sort of done away with it and other stores sort of keep it going. And it's called tea room modeling. You probably have no idea what that is. So tea room modeling is when models go into a restaurant and they roam and talk to people as they're eating, like at lunchtime. There was a store called Bullock's when I was working, and they always had tea room modeling every Friday afternoon. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And it was fun. You eat lunch, and I was there with my mom, and we look at the cool models with the cool clothes, and that's what we ended up doing. So that's tea room modeling. That's a type of informal modeling. The next level after that is called a mini show. A mini show is just a level of it, like an in-store event that is very quick. It's about 10 minutes long. It's about 25 looks, and you might have 4 or 5 models that rotate, and they just do a small collection show within a store. Most department stores, and I've also seen this done at designer boutique stores, where they'll have a mini show. The next level after that, you come into what is called just a straight runway show. Now, this is mostly what we see used is straight runway. It's mostly just models coming out, going back, and it's just really very simply done, and it's a single model at a time. The next level after that, which I love doing, are called theatrical shows. Now, theatrical productions are where you have a lot of bells and whistles that go into the show. You could have dancers, singers, models that dance, lighting effects. I mean, it becomes just like kind of like a big show, you know, and a lot of people kind of like the entertainment value of that. So when I work with a client, I have to find out, pick their brain, like what kind of show do you see? And a lot of them will say, we just want a straight runway show. Perfect. Another group will say, you know what, we really would like some dancers. We love, like, you know, Dancing with the Stars. I'll go find dancers for Dancing with the Stars and put those into the elements of the show. And a lot of these groups have themes. So when it comes to a charitable group, they have themes. They want to have a, you know, Paris at night theme. So we do Parisian music, we do Parisian looking clothes. You know, it kind of creates an ambiance for the audience. That makes it really super entertaining. But some designers, when I've worked with them, they don't want all that. They just want their clothes to be the main focus. So that's where you get that straight runway show. The clothes sell themselves. You don't need all the extra hoopla to really have a successful show. Okay, so there's degrees of fashion shows, and it really is a fact that when you are in my position, if you ever do fashion events, you got to be flexible, because you have to understand the smallness of the event to the largeness of the event and what really goes on into these elements. Okay, so I'll click on my little fashion show link. Okay, so down below is what I provide. You can see here that fashion show services include event development and direction. Basically, it's this. Most shows take, oh my gosh, 6 months or so. You can't plan a show within 2 weeks. I mean, I probably could now, but it's a lot of work. And to try to get that done in a short amount of time is really, you know, challenging. The next one here is fashion merchandising coordination. That's your styling. Okay. Same thing with hair and makeup styling. You have to get the direction of the show. What does the designer want the hair and makeup to look like? Most designers like it really simple. But some designers want the big, you know, it depends on if it's real trendy, it could be the big blowout hair, or the ratted, you know, you've seen all kinds of with the cones and all kinds of stuff going on. So it depends on the designer. But for most show that we do a very simple, either ponytail or low bun. I like to get sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'd like to get the hair off the face, because I'd like to have more of a clean aspect and a look of a show than having too much hair going on, because I think sometimes it takes away from the clothes. But that's my opinion. Staging, lighting, and design. You could look here. I'm going to drink something real quick, but you can see a little bit of the staging on that. This is what happens to me when I talk too much.
You're fine. You're good.
You're all good. No worries.
Yes, it's all good. Good information.
Yeah, thank you. I have a guy named Gary Baker. He does my stage and lighting and tech. So if I need music and lighting and what you see in this little slideshow is really what he does. This is his things that he's done. So the next one here too is model and talent casting. Every show's different. I've had groups that I work with teens. I do teen events. So, you know, it's very trendy. Then I have maybe an older audience that wants a little bit more classic fashion. And that's where we have to consider maybe like Ralph Lauren to show clothes. I mean, every audience is different. That you have to understand who your audience is. That's where you have to ask questions. Show choreography is knowing how to enter and exit off the stage. If there's any special choreography or walks. And this varies too, because you've seen models that have a real simple walk and go to the end of the runway, they turn around and come back. and it's just like down and back. Personally, I don't like that, but you know, it's just down and back. And then other ones, they go to the end and they do little flippy turns and woo. And so everybody's a little different when it comes to the look of the show, and it has a lot to do again with your show, your audience, the clothes that are being featured. Now, commentary and script, it's basically, most shows don't have commentary and script, although in the mall, when I do a mall show, when there's a new store that comes out, I have to introduce, you know, Gap Kids or, you know, the children's place. So people in the audience can understand that that model's coming from a certain store. Production staffing is everything, because that goes from me to my stylist, to my assistant who's on the headset, who's calling the show behind the stage. I'm out front with the DJ and the sound crew, trying to get everybody so the music is in sync with each scene that is coming out. And so the whole production thing is really important. And one of the biggest areas that has to be given attention to is backstage. Backstage can be a fiasco if you are not prepared and plan ahead. And that can also bring you into knowing what to bring to a show for supplies. My bag, and I think Kim can probably attest to it, my bag has masking tape, safety pins for things that don't fit a model, we can pin it up. I have makeup masks, so models don't get makeup on the clothes. I use those. I use literally clothespins, the old clothespins. Those work really well to hang accessories on clothes. Clothespins work really great. I also have a bag of tags. So if tags, all the clothes have to be tagged with the name and the number of the model. That's all part of prepping. So this is where there's a whole bag of things that you learn to bring, and a steamer. I have to bring steamer and racks to my shows. So everybody's got a rack space, you know. I call them model stations. So when somebody comes the day of the show, when Trixie comes to the show, she will go to a certain area, and her name and all her clothes are in order of how they appear, and everything is ready for her, so she can try the clothes on, make sure everything fits. Some shows you do fittings, other shows you don't do fittings. So it really depends, again, on your budget, because budgets vary from zero to big, and everything sort of in between. So I've really talked enough. I mean, there's a lot more I can say, but I have another meeting, so I have to do Q&A. So I think what do you guys want to know?
Well, Lucinda, first of all, I'm going to thank you for coming. And I have to tell you, you actually took me on a trip down memory lane, okay?
Oh,
because, I mean, I have to tell you, I did my executive training program at Bullock's Wilshire. Many years ago, I went to Barbizon Modeling School, which I was taught modeling. I've done tea room modeling at Bullock's Wilshire. So everything you said, and then I was the West Coast stylist for Donna Karen. So one of my accounts was Neiman Marcus in South Coast Plaza, and also Saks Fifth Avenue. Neiman Marcus in, where was Neiman Marcus? In Newport Beach. And Saks at South Coast Plaza. So I'm listening to all these things you're saying, oh, I remember that. I did that. Remember that. Okay. And then I too segue into teaching, which is where I am now. Okay. So I had a great, amazing, fabulous career with Donna Karen, and did some buying for Bullock's Wilshire, a great buying career. And then I love working with my students. Yeah. And you were talking about the fashion show. So guys, many of you, as you know, everything she talked about, I think that we would have done had we had a physical fashion show. So all of you that are listening today, I want you to take the fashion show production class in the spring of 2022. and all these wonderful things Lucinda's talking about, you will get the opportunity to do. Diana's graduating, I'm gonna bring her back. Kimberly's going, I'm gonna bring her back. Okay, Noelle, you're it, okay? Avia's gonna be in the production class next semester. I'm excited about that. So I expect to see Rudy and Maya and Arlette and Rhea and all these other wonderful people in the class. I know that, you know, we've had a lot of challenges this semester because we're going to have a virtual fashion show. So you just went through that, and Kimberly helped you through that. So we're going to be doing that very soon. We want to invite you. So I just want to say once again, you know, thank you for joining us, and I'll open up a question for these guys here. But you literally took me on a trip down memory lane. I'm like, oh wow.
You kind of have to realize, guys, I've been around for a really long time, and fashion has changed. And one thing from your vantage point going forward, when you hit your 50s and so on, your life is going to be different than it is right now. And the way that people do business is going to be a whole different ballgame. So you really do have to be flexible. I've had to learn a lot of things as I go. And the whole thing of like even doing a virtual show, that was all new to me. But I did it, you know, and
it's new
so
to us
it's
as well.
just, yeah. So you learn a lot as you go, and you have to really support yourself with really, really strong people to get your job.
But one of the things, guys, you know, and she said things have changed. But the one thing that I will always remain constant, and that is that human interaction. And she's talking about the cold calling. You know, I know we are in a text, email, totally environment, but there are two things people still like. They like hearing your voice, and they like getting a written thank you note. Those are two things that will never, ever, ever go out of style, okay? So even though we text a lot and we email a lot, you know, that cold calling is still very true, because people want to know who they're working with. So that's something that, you know, guys, think about when you're sending out those text messages and you're trying to get a job or you're interviewing for a job. It's nice to pick up that phone and just try to make a human contact with that person, because people still like that. They know that you put forth the effort and they look at you in a different light. Okay, wouldn't you agree, Lucinda?
Yeah, I think it's really important because now with the computer and all this stuff, I mean, I still send a ton of emails, but I also get on the phone and I'll leave a voicemail. If I don't talk to them, I should say, hey, I'm Lucinda with Couture Productions. I'd like to introduce myself. I still would like to, you know, I sent you an email, but I'd love to speak with you. I mean, just the follow-up factor is really important too. So important. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, questions? Because I think she has to leave us very soon. Questions?
Yeah, there's 4 minutes left. So anyone who has questions, raise your hand, or you could unmute yourself and ask away. Let's see.
I can totally, if you ever want me to come back, I can totally talk to you about models in Runway. Yes. That's like a whole different anyway,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Anybody have a question?
I do. I have a question. Hello. First of all, I do have a question. I know that there's a lot of fashion shows that have like very elaborate designs or beautiful venues. And sometimes the designers, I noticed that they want more, the better, like a lot of, you know, distracting things. So how do you exactly communicate with them and meet with them together, you know, maybe tone it down? Because I know that it's important to have the attention on the garments themselves. But I mean, I think that would be something where like you'd probably be butting heads with designers, be like, no, you have to go this way. So like, how would you exactly deal with that kind of issue?
Well, first of all, designers are people that have their own ideas. That's number one. Number two is you have to work within your context of what you are able to do for them. So you have to kind of Again, ask major questions of the designer. What's your concept? How do you see this going? What would you like to include in the show? I know one designer has particular models he wants to always use. So even though I may not like his models, I have to use his models. So, I mean, you have to be flexible to really kind of adapt yourself to, because it's really their vision and it's really you're the one that's supporting their vision. Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a question. Because I know you coordinate fashion shows. Is there like, because I know you have a lot of experience, like as in retail, as in like hosting many other things. But is there a specific like path just to become a fashion coordinator? To create like to have yourself your own.
So you want to know what it takes to become a fashion coordinator? Is that kind of your question?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple things I think are really important. First of all, I think you have to understand trends. I think that you have to know, like I said, working retail does help get you started. I think one of the biggest things is to intern. Get internships in the areas that you want to pursue. I think it's really important to get yourself surrounded with people with things, you know, this is where you could go on to just even start Googling fashion shows and see who puts them together. And I know a lot of other fashion coordinators and fashion directors like myself have interns, you know, so I know that there are availability out there, but I think one of the biggest helps, and they don't even have this at FIDM, I'm just letting you know, is how to produce a fashion show. I think that class is, and when you guys have to work with each other, that's a really good experience. Listen, I taught that for 20 years, so I know what it's like in a fashion show class and what can happen. So cooperation is huge. Yeah. Valerie,
Thank you.
were you going to ask me something?
Yeah, I had a question. So regarding like the modeling in your page, like do you sometimes need models or like something like that?
What about the models? If we need models?
Yeah, like on your page, like can we apply or?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Most of the models that I have gotten have been through modeling agencies. All of them are associated with a modeling agency. So that's usually where I resource. And a lot of the girls that I use are friends, like they have a friend that is a model. So I get those kind of, you know, and most of my models are very sophisticated. Would you agree, Kimberly? They're highly sophisticated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for like the modeling agencies, do you have to pay for them to be a model or?
No, if you are a legitimate person seeking a modeling agency, you never have to pay an agent to join. You never pay them to join, okay? They will take you. One of the best runway agencies for runway models is LA Models. If you just go and look at their website, they've got incredible models, and a lot of those girls I work with. So that's a caliber. It's pretty high, and they're well known. All the department stores, all the designers, the majority of them get their models from LA Models.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Just wanted to wrap up, Lucinda. We wanted to take a quick picture with you, just like everyone smiling and all that. I don't know who's taking the picture. Who's taking the picture?
I got it.
Okay, Noel's taking the picture. Everyone smile.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and we just want to thank you for coming over, Lucinda. And this is not the last time you'll see us. We will probably invite you a whole lot more.
Oh, by the way, did you have some people here that are going to help us?
Yeah,
Okay.
Noelle and Diana, but I still have 2 more slots, and I was waiting until like the last week to
Okay.
announce
Yes.
because of finals.
Yeah, because you got people that are be going home
Mhm.
and maybe not be around.
Exactly.
I have a show outdoors in Westlake on June 11, which is a Friday, and we needed some backstage helpers. And
Yeah.
talk to Kim. She's in charge of the signups. Okay, I gotta go.
Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you,
today.
Lucinda.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you again. So,
go.
ladies, to the trends board, Diana, Kimberly, Noelle, who else is here from Trend Board? Anybody? Okay, guys, I think they have done an amazing job for this fall semester and going to the spring semester, bringing you this guest speaker forum. It's been so successful. I asked Diana that we're gonna play it over into spring of, into fall of 2021. And I think Diana's in the process, probably very soon, of naming who the president is going to be of fall 2021. I kind of have an idea who it is, but I'm not going to say anything right now. So we're looking forward to Trend 2021 fall, okay? But we want to do something now that Diana's leaving us. We'll do something for Diana and for the entire Trends group. So I think Diana's organizing something, and then we'll talk about that later, Diana, maybe like a Zoom send off or whatever. I don't know what you're organizing, but we'll talk about that later. Okay.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
guys, thank you all for being so supportive. And I have to tell you, the fashion show is coming up, and I'm very excited about that. And with the fashion show, we have Diana, who is on the video committee. We have Arlette, who is on the magazine committee. We have Avia, who is one of our editors and graphics working with the video. We have Asatu, who's going to be one of our designers, and we're so excited to see her collection. So, and then we have Trends, Kimberly and Noelle. So guys, we are a team. Every one of you play a role, even if you're just coming to the show and cheering on your classmates. So everybody's playing a role here. So I'm really excited about what's going to happen next Friday. What day is it? May 14th at 7 o'clock. So if you have not RSVP'd or if you have not got the Zoom link, get it, guys. That was going to be pretty awesome. And we're really excited about it. So Asatu, do you want to say anything as a designer, what to expect?
What to expect from the show?
What are you going to be? What are you giving us? What type of flavor are you giving us with your designs? What should we expect from you?
Well, I did wanted to speak to you about it. I kind of realized it too late, but you know how you guys said as a cinema couture? I was a bit confused, but I should have asked question about it a little, but I did not. So it's my fault. But
I tell you what, then why don't you stay with Diana, Avia, and I, and then we're going to explain it after everybody's gone. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so stay with us, okay? Everybody doesn't have to hear it, so you stay with us, okay? So Diana, tell people what they should expect next week.
Well, next week, so if you guys want to know where to get the information, how to log on and watch the show, it will be on the Instagram Trends account on the bio. So there'll be a link after Friday for you guys to see, already have access to getting the Zoom link, because it will be live streaming via Zoom and YouTube. So that's really great because, it's not only for CSUN students, but also for anyone who's really interested in watching the fashion show. This will be our first virtual show, and it's something really great. It kind of gives it like a cinematic effect. But yeah, it's going to be a great show. A lot of hard work has been put into this, especially from the designers, behind the scene people. So hopefully, just drop by on Friday at 7 p.m. The link is on our bio. So check us out that day, and hopefully you guys enjoy it like we will too. So yeah.
It's the 7th or the 14th?
The 14th.
The 14th. Okay, thank you.
And then we'll create like Instagram posts and everything for the day. So don't worry.
Yeah.
So yeah, that pretty much wraps up for today's meeting. And then again, thank you everyone for joining. And Noelle, I'll talk to you soon. And then Kimberly, me and Kimberly and Professor Warren, I believe it's gonna be our last day pretty much for our last trends meeting. So there's something like a little goodbye, farewell. We ended a good note. So yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. And then me and Warren and Nelvia will stay with Isatu.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Noelle, pass me the
Bye,
mic.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Arlette, you want to stay too, Arlette?
Oh, okay.
No-
Yes.
Noelle, make me as a host before you end it, because then it's gonna end the whole thing.
Wait, you're cutting off. What did you say?
You're breaking up, Diana.
Make me a host. So
Oh,
make me a host so that when you click done, it won't shut down the whole.
Make her a host.
Okay, got it.
So,
And then let me know
so
the
we don't lose
recording.
everybody.
Yeah.
is it working?
Diana's the host now.
Okay, bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.